back in India. This time, I've come to find out what's happening in this country, which has of late been the source of so many horrifying stories. It began in December 2012 when the brutal gang rape of a student in Delhi caused an uproar, and both men and women took to the streets together. This is the 5th time I've traveled here. I used to explore the country without a care, but this time I feel queasy. Must I, as a woman, feel afraid in India? In the course of my research, I spoke with many victims of sexual violence, but none of the women were willing to talk on camera. Then I met Suzette Jordan. She's 39 and currently the only rape victim in India who's willing to show her face and speak about her ordeal in public. Suzette Jordan is a modern Anglo-Indian woman and comes from the educated middle class. Her story begins on a Sunday. She'd arranged to meet friends in the bar of a 4-star hotel in Kolkata.
I noticed this one guy who kept looking towards me and smiling. So I smiled, and we were having a normal conversation. He never showed me that, he was checking my body out, nothing of that sort. So anyway, when I was leaving, he says, "May I give you a lift?" So we went to the car and I sat at the back. And as soon as he came in, 2 of his other friends came and they sat at the back. Then the person driving turned up the volume of the music full, and the car started to move at a slow pace towards the exit. I tried to open the door, it wouldn't open. And that's when I knew. I said, I'm gone, this is the end of it, this is it, Suddenly this guy on the left hand side grabs me by my breast, and I don't know what he says to me, something like, "Let's play baby," or something like that. He has my breast in his hand. He took out a gun, he had it in my mouth, and I think that was the worst part. When you had the gun in your mouth, you're thinking, and you're not thinking. Nothing, no thoughts come to your mind because you can't even swallow your own spit. He started to undress me, and then the whole thing happened. And then when he was done, when he just gets off my body and he looks at me, slaps my face like that, and he tells his friends, "There's nothing in her, like I don't know how to say this, like nothing in her, and he offers me to his friends, and he's forcing his friends, have her, go and have her, now it's y'all's chance." Suddenly the guy takes my head and bangs my head on the door, and then he punches me in the middle of my back. And as soon as he does that, I'm gone. What they did to me when I was unconscious, I am clueless about. I have tried, and I've not got not even that much of an inclination what they've done. At that point, the car slows down and he pushes me out into the center of the road. My jeans down, my blouse totally torn off my body, and I'm there in the middle of the road nude, clueless where I am. And then I just pick up my jeans, dress myself. I couldn't rectify my blouse, so I just pulled up my jacket and I ran.
A taxi picked up Suzette Jordan and drove her home.
My eldest daughter was awake, and she's the one that actually cleaned me. She's the one that actually took me to the bathroom and bathed me, because I wouldn't for some reason allow my mom to come near me. I Of course, under the instructions of my mom, my daughter was doing it, but I wouldn't allow my mom to touch me.
Suzette wanted to go to the police right away, but her father was against it.
My dad was against the fact that I should go to the police station, not for selfish reasons, but for my safety. He said to me, "Baby, will go, but understand the repercussions that come with it. I suggest you don't go, for your safety."
I ask myself why a father would advise his daughter, a rape victim, not to file a complaint. According to official figures, the rate of violent sexual assault is higher in Germany than in India. But I found out during my research that out of 100 assaulted Indian women, only one files a complaint. How does that fit in with the images of the mass protests in December 2012? I'm meeting two activists in Delhi who help victims of sexual violence. I ask Bhuvan and Priyanka Ribu to explain to me why so few women go to the police while so many were out demonstrating that December.
It's like years of pent-up frustrations and energy that is inside you. It needs to find an outlet. So, that is something that I think happened with a lot of people who were at the India Gate. People wanted to go even when the police had started using water cannons.
We have rapes and brutal rapes in India, and you read them every single day in the newspaper or watch the TV. We don't agitate as we did last December because very many of us do not identify with a poor woman in a rural part of the country or tribal women who are abused every day. We don't see that as reflections of us, and that should also shock us. But this did shock us. It's been 6 months more that happened, and I still feel weird. I just feel bad. I just feel it's just something that shouldn't have happened.
Life in Delhi is hard. 11 million people live in incredibly close quarters. This time, like every time I visit India, I find the overwhelming difference between rich and poor disgraceful. That's also what drives Bhuvan Ribu. He tells us about one of his cases.
In Sajina's case, the boy had to sell his property to come to Delhi. To get what? To try and recover his kidnapped sister who's being raped by people. So, unfortunately, that is the issue.
We reach the BBA, Bachpan Bachao Andolan. It's an aid organization Bhuvan's father founded 30 years ago. Here, India's two worlds meet. Educated Indians, most of them lawyers and social workers, attend to the needs of people who have nowhere else to go. Everywhere there are files dealing with people in distress, hoping the BBA can help them. A few years ago, Bhuvan Ribu decided to give up his flourishing law practice to follow in his father's footsteps. This is Bhuvan's father, Kailash Satyarthi. The young man Bhuvan told me about in the car is sitting in his office. He and his aunt have come here from Assam, which is 2,000 kilometers away. He tells Kailash Satyarthi his name is Samsul and tells him what happened.
कोई नौकरी में गया था, कोई लड़के उसको नौकरी करने के लिए बोला
A group of men offered my sister work.
और उस दिन जो
She turned them down, but then she disappeared.
किसी को नहीं पता वो कहाँ है।
When nobody was looking, she managed to call me on a cell phone. She was crying and pleading with me to get her out of there. I went to where she was and saw her. There was blood flowing from her eyes and she had cuts on her face. They really beat her badly.
देख क्या है पुलिस के पास गया था लड़के
I immediately went to the police in Palwal, but they threw me out.
उसी दिन
They said, "Get out of here.
पुलिस ने भगा दिया
We're not going to do anything."
ये पलवल थाने में गया था
क्या बोल दिया पुलिस?
पुलिस बोला था
I don't have enough money to bribe them.
यहाँ से कुछ नहीं होता
Even though I've sold all my land.
काम में तो इतने हमारे पैसे भी नहीं है जो हम इसको इधर भाग दौड़ करें जो आधा बीघा जमीन थी वो भी हमने बेच दिया उसको जो लड़के थे
Samsul tells us he sold his land for the equivalent of 300 euros to raise the money to come to Delhi and try to free his sister.
फिर हमने बोला नहीं खला के पास जाऊंगा
पैसे कहाँ ले गए वो?
पैसे पुलिस
Some of
के
the
पीछे
money
भागते
ended
हैं,
up in the hands of the police, and some went to the villagers.
फिर भी कार्रवाई सुन रही है कोई
पुलिस को पैसे दिए?
पुलिस के वकील
चिंता ना कर, अभी तो हाथ नहीं उठाना पड़ेगा ना, अभी उसको प्यार करना।
Don't worry.
अभी जब बहन आएगी
You're
ना,
going to get your sister back.
गले लगा के,
And if she tells you about the bad things that have happened to her,
साथ बड़ा बुरा हो गया,
show her you love her
हाँ,
and tell her everything's going to be all right.
उसको पानी पिलाओ।
A team from BBA is accompanying Samsul to the village to free his sister. I'm allowed to come along if I want to, but Bhuvan Ripu warns me.
All of us have been beaten many times. We've lost two of our activists who have been assassinated or killed during such operations, and it's not a thing to be taken lightly.
Despite that, I want to find out what's happened to Sajina and decide to accompany the team. We travel to the police station that refused to help her brother. Without the support of local police, the activists won't be able to get Sajina out of the village. It would be illegal and too dangerous. It's Samsul's last hope of rescuing his sister. It takes us 2 hours to drive the 60 kilometers to Pawal in the Indian state of Haryana. This is the police station that refused to assist Sajina's brother. Can the activists convince the police to free Sajina? We record the conversation with hidden cameras.
ये बहुत ही सीरियस मैटर है जनाब।
Manish, one of the activists, starts to explain that a girl has been abducted and is being held against her will in this state. After hearing just one sentence, the policeman tries to fob us off. He suggests we take the matter up with the police in Assam, since that's where Sajina's from. Manish points out that while that may be the case, she was abducted, held captive, and raped here, so therefore these authorities are responsible. The police keep trying to pass on the responsibility. The fact that a 17-year-old girl may be raped while we stand here discussing her situation appears not to concern them in the least. The police officer continues to insist that the crime should be reported in Assam and the police there should come and get her.
At that point, I thought I'd never see my sister again. At home, they laughed at me and told me to forget her, that she belonged to someone else and I should let her go. Then I said, never. I'll take her home one way or another.
The activists have been arguing with the police for over 2 hours. It makes me think of the case in December 2012 when a student was raped in a bus. She lay bleeding on the floor while police officers spent 30 minutes discussing who had jurisdiction. And then finally, the officers here tell us why they aren't looking into the situation. They say it's always the same, that women claim they've been raped and then later retract their statements. They say that 99% of the accusations come to nothing. The policemen add that since the case of the student, women have been reporting sexual violence just to extort money. Police officers who don't take rape reports seriously. I find that surprising because when similar comments were made by public servants in 2012, it caused a scandal. It seems nothing has changed. Back then, an undercover journalist from the Tehelka news agency spoke to 30 police superintendents in Delhi and heard similarly shocking comments.
No rape in Delhi without the provoking from the gun.
Here, a chief of police justifies the rape of a 17-year-old.
आप मुझे किस तरीके से यूज करेंगे तो रास्ता आपने हमें सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर दे दिया उस पर चलने के लिए हमारा ट्रैक ऐसा हो गया कि आपने हमें ढील दी हम आपसे बोल गए और आपने हमारे साथ फिर ना चाह के ये कर दिया.
Returning to Suzette, I now understand the concerns of her father, who advised her not to go to the police. Suzette tells me how one day after the rape, she plucked up her courage and registered a complaint.
Every male officer present there questioned me. Oh, you're raped. Oh, the other guy, he's off duty, somebody's on. You're the girl who's raped. Oh, what clothes you had on? Short dress. I'm looking at his face and I'm like, man, really? And I said, no sir, I had on jeans. Top? I said, yes, I had on a top, but I also had on a jacket. It's winter, you know. Oh, okay. Position, you can't say the position. And he's like, you know, he's making signs with his hands. And I'm like, no sir. He was on top of me. It's okay.
Immediately following her sobering experience at the police station, Suzette underwent a medical examination. Evidence that she'd been violated was to be collected at the clinic. For a long time, a lot of clinics in India turned away victims of sexual violence. But in 2013, a law went into effect that punishes failure to render assistance. During Suzette's examination, the notorious two-finger test, a sort of test of virginity, was carried out.
They asked me to strip. All the windows were open, bright lights, and I'm standing there stark naked. And then she comes and she pats my leg. You know what that makes you feel?
Although clinics were instructed to strike the two-finger test from their list of examinations in 2013, all the women I spoke to had been subjected to it. The doctor uses two fingers to see if the vagina is dilated and therefore, according to Indian interpretation, accustomed to sexual intercourse. It's often used in court as evidence that the victim has led an immoral life and is therefore not credible.
That is like, it attacks the credibility of the woman, because you make her feel that, you know, you're a liar, you everything about you is a lie, you know. They don't treat you like a body, a person with feelings, with emotions, who's been violated, and that's the reason you're there.
In a shocking incident, a 37-year-old woman was raped at gunpoint in Kolkata.
He beat me and punched me. And
the story swept through the media. As with all rape victims in India, Suzette's identity was withheld. She was called the Park Street victim.
And started raping me. And then what followed after that were a series of different comments. Like one guy said that I was 37 and it was about time that I got raped. I was 37 with 2 kids. Even if I got raped, I wouldn't know the difference because I had 2 kids. I was 37. What the hell was I doing out at a nightclub? I shouldn't have been there in the first place. I was 37. I was drinking. I deserved it.
Even a female politician spoke out against her.
Congress spokesperson Kakoli Ghosh has questioned the victim's character.
The Park Street case, that was not at all a rape case. It was a misunderstanding between two parties involved in a professional dealing, a lady and her client. It was not a rape.
Suzette Jordan reached a point where she could no longer remain silent. The Park Street victim wanted to reclaim the identity of Suzette Jordan. When another student died from the consequences of rape, Suzette joined a mass demonstration and broke a taboo. She showed her face.
Since 7th of June. Now what is important is today taking to the streets is someone we have known as the Park Street rape survivor. But today she is out disclosing her identity and not afraid to speak out.
It was not even my fault. Why should I be ashamed of something that I didn't give rise to?
Now I can understand why educated middle-class women in particular are apprehensive about going to the police. They have a lot to lose. What has changed in India since the protests? Faced with mass indignation, the Indian government amended the Penal Code in 2013. In just 3 months, it passed new, more stringent laws on violence against women. Rape now carries a sentence of between 7 years and life in prison. But I wondered to myself, what use are the toughest laws when those who are supposed to enforce them don't? Back in the Palwal police station, Samsul is still waiting for a decision. After discussing the matter for 3 hours in stifling heat and humidity, the officers realize they'll have to take action this time. Reluctantly, the police chief orders them to pay a visit to the village. We're in the state of Haryana. Here, as is the case all over the country, sons are considered more valuable than daughters. UNICEF estimates that 7,000 female fetuses a day are aborted in India. The result is a shortage of women in the villages. Families with money have to buy wives for their sons, and then these brides are often abused as sex slaves by other men in the family. We arrive in the village where Sajina is being held. The BBA activists warn me to stick close to them at all times. Anyone left alone during an operation like this is in mortal danger. The woman in blue is a member of the family that is holding Sajina captive. She says Sajina is at the doctor. Half the village has gathered. It seems the family has been tipped off. There's no trace of Sajina. According to this young woman, Sajina was vomiting and went to the doctor. She claims to be a sister-in-law, that Sajina is married to her brother. Sajina's supposed mother-in-law shows us a crumpled piece of paper, the marriage certificate. When asked about Sajina's whereabouts, another woman says she has nothing to do with it. She just lives nearby. No one admits to having seen or heard anything. A few meters away, the village elder is trying to convince the police that everything is perfectly legitimate. He says he can prove they paid a broker between 50,000 and 60,000 rupees for the girl. The man in the turban says he brought Sajina to the village after the family had bid the equivalent of 700 euros for her. It's as if he were talking about buying a car. No one seems concerned by the fact that human trafficking is prohibited by law and carries a prison sentence of 7 years to life. I begin to feel uneasy. More and more people gather around us. I stay close to the activists, who are also becoming increasingly nervous and start whispering to the police. They don't want things to get out of hand. A policeman says they've already requested reinforcements. He tells the villagers he's losing patience and orders them to hand over Sajina. The village cleric says he doesn't understand the problem. He says she married here in the presence of 10 witnesses. The policeman warns him he's not above the law. But that's just the problem. In villages like this, the spiritual leaders and the mayor decide what's right or wrong. Vigilante justice is the order of the day. Suddenly, without a word, the village cleric disappears with 4 men following close behind. After a short time, he reappears. He's holding a veiled girl by the hand, and she really is Sajina. We are not allowed to show her face. He tells her to explain that nothing bad has been done to her. Sajina seems completely distraught. She says she wanted to go home, but they wouldn't let her leave. Samsul tries to calm her down and assures her we'll get her out safely. Before the situation escalates, the police give the order to withdraw. We have managed to free the girl who could now put many men in the village behind bars for 7 years to life. We all try to get out as fast as possible. The police don't wait for us. They simply drive off. A few minutes later, we're sitting in our car, breathing a sigh of relief. Sajina is in the car in front of us. She'd just told her brother she had been sold as a bride and sexually abused by 8 men for 3 months. We go back to the police station. I have a pretty good idea of what we can expect.
When I saw her, I knew her life was ruined. But what can I do? I'll take her back home where we can look after her. And then we'll find a husband for her and everything will be okay.
But the ordeal isn't over. Again, the police refuse to file charges against the villagers. The BBA activist is furious.
I think your attitude is indefensible. Something terrible has happened to these simple people. They have a right to come to you and file a complaint. This girl has gone through so much, and you're trying to fob us off. I've had it up to here with your conduct. You're the chief of this police station, and you refuse to do your duty. I warn you, we're going to take you to court. We could have arrested the perpetrators by now. The BBA is going to press charges against you if you don't register this case.
Finally, the threat has an effect. The police register the case. From what I've seen, the police protect the culprits and humiliate the victims. Later, I show Bhuvan Ribu our video. I want to hear his opinion.
Here is this man who admits that there was something like an auction kind of a thing and somebody put in 50,000, somebody put in 60,000, and the minute he says it, the policeman realizes that and immediately takes the man away that what is this other fellow saying, make him shut up or whatever. So why is the policeman taking the man aside?
So the police is basically backing these guys.
The police is definitely not backing the victim.
महीने में 20 रेड करता हूं मैं और दिल्ली के किसी थाने में
You have recovered the girl who is sitting in your police station and telling you that I was assaulted, I was raped, I was abducted, I was sold as a slave, and you have the audacity to ask the complainant what is your locus standi. You are not believing the brother, you are not believing the aunt. If the person sitting across the table, if Manish had not been so firm, the girl would see that the police is on the side of the accused. If the case was not registered, what would be the fate of the child? She would once again be gone back there.
Sajina doesn't have to go back to the village, but the police insist she be taken to a women's shelter. After 3 months of beatings and sexual abuse, Sajina is being confined behind barbed wire with 72 other traumatized young women with no therapeutic support. A few months ago, 2 women died under mysterious circumstances in this shelter. A race against time now begins for Bhuvan. The longer it takes to go to trial, the greater the risk that Sajina will change her testimony. Will she manage to stay strong if the culprits threaten her or offer her money? Or if she's intimidated and the police don't back her up?
In our society, the rate of conviction is so low because of this. I would like to think that it is not that the judges do not see what has happened. They see what has happened, but the evidence is not there. The witnesses have changed and the judge can't do anything about it.
Are you sometimes angry if a victim changes his story?
They will be angry, much more angrier than what I am, on the plight of that child. The brother's anger is a very different kind of anger than what I would feel. Who am I to feel that the same degree of anger, if there can be such a quantification? And if despite that anger he has changed his statement, in any case, not in this case, but in any case, if the victim, despite that frustration and what they have gone through, they change their statement, then we must feel for whatever that has made them do that.
This is the way we want to see India, as the country of yoga and spirituality and Gandhi's non-violent resistance. But India has many faces. Most Indians pray to female deities, and as early as 1966, they elected a woman prime minister. At the same time, the country disregards its women, but the responsibility doesn't lie solely with men. Indian women are complicit when women and girls are subjected to violence. I'm interested to learn the views of a young man with regard to violence against women. Hindal Sengupta is a journalist. He's 34 and single.
I think the Indian man today is a cornered animal. The Indian man has never felt less secure about himself, you know. See, there was a presumption, right? I mean, earlier I could presume that my mother will do this for me, my sister will do this for me when I get married. If I'm a heterosexual male, when I get married, my wife will do this for me. And then my daughter, if I have a daughter, will do this for me. None of those assumptions hold true anymore. So today what is happening is, with liberalization, and that's only one thing, but many modernity coming to India, women are basically saying, I'll do whatever I feel like, essentially, you know.
And you think that is connected to the violence against women?
Absolutely, because the violence, the way I see the violence, it's a backlash. It's a classic male response to the feeling that, you know, my power is getting seceded, you know, somehow I'm losing my power. And as the Indian man feels more and more disempowered, feels more and more like power is being taken away from them, the classic response is violence.
After the December demonstrations, Hindal Sengupta developed an emergency mobile phone app. It gives women the ability to report crimes and call for help.
So basically what the app does is very simple. I mean, it was the first SOS app. What it does is very simple. It's just one button, right? And the moment you hit the button, it sends out 5 SMSs and 5 emails to predetermined people. They get a message saying you are in trouble in this area because it's GPS connected. It shows you where you are, right?
What do you think has to change? So these rape stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I think time for sure. I mean, it could take 10, 15, 20 years for it to sort out and stabilize because, you know, our patriarchy is extremely deep rooted. Even very, I mean, I keep saying, I don't know how I will react and what my expectations will be from my wife, even though I do so much of activism work in this field, until I am married, and I'm not at the moment. Because you see, patriarchy is so subliminal. It's so in the genes that tomorrow the same me when married might have different expectations.
Six months later, I get a phone call. Sajina is back in Delhi. After a week in the women's shelter, she returned to her family in Assam. But instead of a happy reunion, the 17-year-old is condemned.
The village elder came and told me to get out, or else they'd lock me up or kill me. They wanted to hold a village council to decide what to do with me.
And how did her family react?
More or less the same way.
I will explain. My brother's wife is the one in charge of our house. If she's in a good mood, everything's fine. But if she's in a bad mood, Sajina has to hear the same things from her as from the other villagers. When I'm at home, I look after her, but I'm often at work. And because she feels shame, she stays at home all day.
What happened to the man who sold her?
He still lives in our village. The police have done nothing. They'll never arrest him.
6 months after Sajina's rescue, only one of the 8 men who raped her is in prison. Sajina is treated like a criminal in her own village, while the man who abducted her is treated with respect. For the 17-year-old, her only option is to make a new life for herself in Delhi.
When they are meeting new people who do not know their background, there is no shame, no embarrassment. Our love for them will prove that there is no shame or embarrassment in what you have gone through. But still, the very fact that we know is traumatic for them. So when they go and spend time with people who do not know, then they start leading a normal life. That's what's important.
Suzette Jordan's life also took a turn for the worse after her brutal gang rape. She used to own a small business. Now she's unemployed. No one will give a job to the woman who was known as the Park Street rape victim before she revealed her identity. She struggles against depression and draws strength from her religion. Remarks from her neighbors forced her to move out of her spacious home in a well-heeled district of Kolkata. Now she shares 2 small rooms with her mother and her daughters, Ria and Jade. For them, too, life has changed since the assault.
My sense of security has grown bigger since my rape, because every point and every moment of the day I have to make myself feel safe. There are two, the main accused and another accomplice that are still absconding from the time my rape has happened, and they have not been found. So yes, this very thought actually frightens me.
These are 3 of the 5 rapists, men from well-established families. Suzette Jordan wasn't their first victim, but she was the first to put them behind bars. The perpetrator's parents offered her $500,000 to withdraw her complaint. Not a day goes by that Suzette Jordan doesn't telephone with the police. And she also receives numerous anonymous phone calls every day. She's convinced they're from the rapists who are still at large. The trial of the other 3 is still in progress.
The rape of a woman never ever ends at her rape. It's only the beginning. The rape, actual rape, is the prologue to the book. The main rape follows with the medicals, with the complaint to the police, with the way you're looked at, with the way society ostracizes you, with stigmas that you have to face, you have to fight against. So you're fighting a continuous battle after that.